What happens after I've been really good? Hi, and welcome back to Not Here to Fix You, the podcast where we talk about food, behavior, emotions, healing, and everything in between. I'm your co host, Amanda, a food behavior stability strategist. I help high functioning women to be able to decipher their eating patterns and eat more consistently, especially when they are under stress and without diets. And with me today is my other co host, Lazina, an emotional repair language guide and companion. Take it away, Lazina.
Yes, that's me. I'm your repair language guide or companion. I like to be along the journey with you as we discover what your emotional needs are. The repair language is really learning how to translate reactions into needs so that instead of seeing someone as reactive, we can see what they need in the moment or what we need in the moment that we didn't receive.
Okay, so today I was thinking, well, I actually kind of remembered that a few months ago you sent me this workbook, and the workbook was based on your relationship repair language book, which has been available on Amazon for like coming up to almost a year now. Woohoo! But
Yay.
the workbook you sent me a couple of months ago, I remember I was just looking through it and you told me to go through it and I did read it. And one of the things that came up for me was why does it feel like I'm more disciplined and why do I crash when I'm really hard on myself? So, like, on one day, I'm making all these right choices and I'm doing everything right. And then something just, flips. And then the whole script is like gone for a toss. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to explore today.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're addressing that issue today. it's it's funny because when it comes to, and we talked about this, oh my gosh, I'm saying we talk about this a lot because you and I have conversation about this, but whoever is listening to this might be your first time hearing me, so let me take that judgment of myself away in this moment. The idea of I'm disciplined and I'm doing everything and then I crash after, what I've learned is that there's there's parts of me that still wants to be in control. And when I am still trying to be in control, then everything needs to be on. I need to be disciplined. I need to be right. I need to, make sure that I'm following my path. But a part of that is controlling how I'm being received and how I'm being seen, or just controlling the outcome instead of being more in regulation and noticing that my nervous system is now seeking instead of receiving. And that's kind of a big trigger, especially when overwhelm kicks in at that point, because that's what it feels to me when I'm doing everything right and I'm showing up, and then all of a sudden it backfires. It's a way for me to pause and say, okay, I have some emotional needs now that I am not addressing. And that is part of the journey, that is part of exploration, because not everything is going to be perfect. So when that does come up, it's another layer, and that layer is control is not necessarily wrong because it does help us get to where we need to go, but over time it can create pressure, and it can lead to burnout, it could lead to shutdown, or even rebound behaviors. And rebound behaviors is not something that we want to be proud of, but there's lessons in it. There's another layer, because at first I'm not setting boundaries with myself. Well, and then after that it's like, oh no, I set a boundary, but I didn't like that I set that boundary that way. I could have done it differently. So these layers that needs to be uncovered, and the releasing of control and moving more into regulation can really uplift and bring us out of there. And then you also mentioned that the book that I wrote, it does have a quiz, but then I had a free what do you call it, a downloadable that I'm offering, about talking about how our attachment style and repair can go hand in hand. And this is where a lot of people are familiar with the attachment style. And what I've learned about the attachment styles is that it is how I protect myself. It's how I stay in control. And that can also mean, as I'm learning about my attachment style, is how I control how I behave to other people. But on the other side of it, I'm not understanding what that looks like and what that experience is like for someone else, even though my intentions is right. So it's very layered. And it's a great discussion topic to have. So I want to ask you something. For example, whenever you feel overwhelmed, and let's say you're practicing the things that you need to do, and then all of a sudden you have one moment that I feel that control at that moment is becoming overwhelmed. Would you say that's how that shows up for you?
It depends on the situation. So if I am like if I'm having a bad day and then I have an interaction with someone and you say it's the way I'm receiving it because you can only be in control of yourself. So I'm not receiving that message correctly because now I'm already dysregulated. It's been a day and then this person's coming at me and I'm not seeing it as what are they trying to share with me. I'm seeing it as this is an attack and an assassination on my character. And I can go from 0 to 10 really quick. But on a good
Yeah.
day, that's not how I see it. Like I'm more in control. I'm like, okay, I want to hear what they're saying. Let's not get defensive immediately because for me, I'm in a covering avoidance. So I do need to sit with things and take accountability because I'm working towards being secure. And I personally feel I've made a lot of strides with that. I mean, if I can say so myself. But we
Yeah.
have worked together for a while, so I definitely think I'm in a way better place than when I first started. But to answer your question, yes, it does feel very overwhelming, especially if you're coming at me when I'm already not in a great space. And then you're already placing what I feel is more demands and more expectations. So yeah, that definitely feels like a bit too heavy
Hmm.
in the situation.
Yeah. And I totally relate to that because when I'm feeling that same thing, that overwhelm, I tend to tighten control over my behavior. So when as a also recovering avoidant, because and I say recovering and I like that you use the term recovering avoidant too, it's because we're always going to have our behaviors. And when I say always, anxiety and excitement can look the same
Mhm.
to anybody on the outside. Internally, if I'm excited, yeah, that may show up as anxiety for you, but for me, it's excitement. Sadness can also be gratitude. If
Yeah.
I'm crying and I'm releasing, I'm just feeling so grateful for this moment. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being whatever the judgment words is. In that moment, I'm feeling gratitude, but it could look like sadness. Their behaviors are gonna be there. It's up to us to understand if our behaviors is causing harm or are harmful to ourselves, or if it's contributing to our the releases that we need or whatever. Because at the end of the day, I could be angry because I am so passionate about this thing and I need anger is what's needed in order for my voice to get heard. You'll see that in protests or people who are championing change in legal systems and things like that. There's so much that can be delved into there. But in the moment when I'm feeling overwhelmed in a relationship with other people, now I have this pressure. I'm putting pressure on myself to control my behavior because I want to look good. I want to look right. I want to get it right. I'm going to monitor myself so closely. I'm going to avoid really sharing how I feel in the moment. And that avoiding how I really feel in the moment is what takes vulnerability away from the situation because we're allowed to be messy. We're allowed to have a hard day. And if someone is using blame language, we can choose to not take it personally or we could choose to respond so that they can see it gives them the opportunity to see how they're also showing up whether they appreciate it or not. If nobody's ever told them this is how it feels to be in a relationship on the other side of you, nobody's going to know. So when I think about that internally, I am anticipating that someone is going to tell me how I'm behaving. So I need to be open to hear what they're saying so I can really understand how that has affected them. Not necessarily mean that I need to change my behavior, but there's got to be a different approach, especially when I care about that relationship and I want to be in connection. But instead, I'm avoiding it, I'm suppressing it, and I'm just trying to push through instead of taking the time to really truly see what I need. Now, when it comes to the behaviors, right, that's where the judgment can be, whether it's I'm judging myself or that other person. And I want to go a little bit into the attachment styles of that because as we learn about our attachment style and how we behave, it can be okay, well, I behave this way because I've put up with this for so long and I'm no longer doing it. So this is how I'm going to do it healthily. When we go into that more secure part of our attachment, and we know for sure, I have sat with myself through a lot of dark moments and I've pulled myself out, and I've had a handful of people who have supported me on that journey. So I kind of have my integrity in order and I know what I want and what I don't want and how I'm going to communicate. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to be secure in every single reaction or situation. I could be talking to an avoidant and I'm expressing how I feel. When you pull away, I don't feel like I'm connected to you. And I really want to be in connection to you. How can we do that differently? And you say, well, that's your perspective. I can either react and say, well, I feel pushed away now, and I don't feel like this is a conversation that I can continue to have. So I need to step away. And you now say, well, I thought you were mature. I thought you were secure. I thought you had better communication skills. So being in a secure attachment doesn't mean that I'm understanding and I have to belly up to every single other person or meet them constantly. That also means that I'm going to respect my boundaries. I'm going to respect my time. I'm going to respect my effort, and I'm going to take the time to witness me and see me so that I can take care of me. And that doesn't look very controlled. That looks like, all right, well, I guess we'll talk later, or maybe we won't talk at all. All right, I'll talk to you soon. That person is not going to receive that well because that's in the mindset that they're in, but that's still a healthy choice for me. So it really truly depends on what we are experiencing underneath it all. And when it comes to repair in those situations, if I know that I'm an avoidant, that's naming it, right? It's not just naming it though. What does that mean? How am I showing up as an avoidant? How does that affect the relationship with people? And even as an anxious, because when someone's anxious, they're really saying, I want to love you. See how I'm loving you. I want you to reassure me that you love me. I've had all of these things. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Again.
Okay. I have all of these things that have happened to me in my life, and I'm trying to do better, and I don't know that I'm trying to do better, and I don't even know what I don't know. So, relationally, I can't really depend on someone else to give me that reassurance as a anxious person. And I would give advice, but when I'm communicating with an anxious person, I would want to give them reassurance that, hey, I am here to connect with you. But how is that anxious person receiving it? We have to learn to be able to receive too, because if I'm not allowing people to show up for me and allowing those patterns to be different, then I'm still controlling it. I'm still, in a sense, controlling what I'm expecting other people to show up, how other people should show up for me, and how I want to show up for other people instead of regulating in the moment. Maybe taking that time. This is where the repair language comes in, understanding what my emotional needs are. So if I am someone who's anxious and someone who's an avoidant is pushing me away, or I feel pushed away by someone who's an avoidant, it's up to me to either communicate with that person from a place of saying, hey, I would really like for us to talk about this again, because this is not feeling okay for me, and I don't want to punish you, but I'm going to take the time to figure out what I need first, and I'll let you know, and we can come back. Now, that person may be the type of person who need to have that conversation right then and there, and that may not be received, and they may not like that. So it really depends on how we want to regulate, how we want to be in relationship, how the level that we want to release and surrender. Because in that space of disconnection, growth happens too.
Yeah.
When it's two people who are willing to do it, that's great. When it's people who are not willing to do it, then it becomes repair with ourselves.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I want to share that I think, I mean, at least this is what I've noticed because I also like to look at patterns. Like with eating, I look at the pattern. But like coming back to what you were saying, I feel like a lot of times what we are is what we kind of expect from other people. So, like, I'll just, like, for example, I know that there are, like, I've had friendships with people who are anxious, and what I see is it comes off as the behavior sometimes comes off as a little bit overcompensating. But that's maybe because, like I said, I'm a recovering avoidant. So they're like, they check in on you or they'll text you. And then there's a part of me that's like, okay, do they need, I mean, is this like a normal thing that they do with people, or do they need like an extra reassurance? Like, if I don't hear from them, or if they don't hear from me, is there their whole system imploding right now because I'm not texting them
You're
back immediately.
carrying you're
Yeah.
carrying them.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, because some of them will respond like I'll send a text, right? Like, I mean, you and I text all the time. But like, if I text you and you don't message me back within few hours, I'm not like my world's not crumbling. But I know people who are like, I think they have literally said to me like, oh, if I don't get a text back, I get angry, I get annoyed, and I'm just like, okay, but like, maybe something like in my mind, this is what's going on. It's like maybe they're having something going on that day, like if I'm in a busy situation, I'm not glued to my phone to like text you. And I feel like maybe, I don't know, but I feel like if you're secure with the relationship, it shouldn't feel that way. But then that's because I'm not an anxious attachment. So I'm trying to be like, I'm trying to like look at it from the compassionate lens, but very often I catch myself going, why? And I'm sure that the anxious attachment side people will look at the avoidant and be like, you guys are so cool. Like you'll never like check in or like, you just, but I think the anxious misses the intensity that an avoidant can bring to the table. Because like when we are like, in this conversation with you, we can be really, but then when we're like on another thing, we're like, oh, I'm like super busy with what I'm doing and I'm laser focused on that. Not because I don't love you. It's just because, this is like in front of me right now and I need to tackle this. But that's been
Mm.
my experience with attachment style. But I think what I like about the relationship repair language, and for me, what I personally found helpful was to try and one, yes, figure out your own. That's very important because, what's that saying? Like the longest relationship you'll have is the one you have with yourself. So you need to know your own first. But then I also think you need to know others, especially the people who are in your close circle and you care for. You need to know their relationship repair language. Because how are you going to show them that you care about them if you cannot meet them where they expect you to? And this is a two-way street. This is not you only doing the work. They've got to also meet you where you're at. But it's important to know how can you show up for them. So maybe your relationship language will be different from theirs, but you need to like learn how to speak theirs a little bit better. And they need to learn to speak yours a little bit better so like you can meet in the middle somewhere. At least that's what but do you have any other thoughts on this, or would you do it as
Oh God, of course, I made so many. So you brought up very, very crucial points. It is very important to have safety in a relationship. Safety in a relationship is something that's built over time, and it's built over time with consistency and consideration. I think we cannot, for me, whenever two people are this are in connection, there's this little boy and this little girl or two little girls or whatever who have had a lot of unacknowledged emotional impact, and those come up whenever we are in a state of dysregulation or we need to feel heard or whatever that is. When that feeling starts to happen, that's when our protections come up, and our protections are our attachment style. So when our protection starts coming up unconsciously, it's two people just saying, "Hey, I just want you to see that I care, and I want you to feel cared about, and I want you to care about me too." But we never had the language for it. We have assessments, we have tests, we have quizzes, and they can feel very labeling and I'm a Jupiter, Mars, Uranus, under the moon. I don't know, whatever, Again, I believe those things are real because they have helped me map out who I am to get to me, right? But they're not the only thing that defines me. So when it comes to being in relational safety, I always like to know from people what is it that is what is your love language and how do you receive? Because I can give you reassurance all I want, but if you're not able to receive that, it's going to go down the drain. So it's important for me to know how you like to receive. So I'm not pouring into a vortex. I can love you my way, but if you it's just going nowhere. It has nowhere to land. Now I also need to know what your attachment style is. What even if you're an avoidant, right? Sometimes avoidants like to blame. They like to blame the other person. And blame is just a way of saying, I need you to take accountability for how I feel. And that sounds rough. And I would never tell somebody I need you to take accountability for how I feel, but that's essentially the need that's behind of it. So it's being able to say, well, I don't feel valued. I don't feel connected. I don't feel listened to. I don't feel heard. Using I statement instead of you are behaving this way, or when you say this, or when you behave that way, because then now when somebody hears that you language, that emotion, the nervous system is already ready. Like, I'm receiving blame and I want to defend. So I'm either going to go tit for tat. So then these things come in and they play a big factor. So learning what those your repair language and your love languages is very crucial to know how to be in relationship, because then over time we can start building what consistency look like. We can start building what consideration and togetherness look like. So it's a journey, and that's why I like to do it as an experience, because how else are we going to know how we can support each other if we don't get it wrong, or we don't mess up, or we don't, like, have those edges. Now, relationship repair language is completely essential in these things, because when those moments do get tense and we do need to fight or argue or whatever, we need to know how to come back and not make decisions in those spaces, because that's where I believe most relationship break, is that we make decisions during our avoidant or our anxious moments when our needs aren't being met and we don't even know what our needs are. So repair language gives you a name for what you need for to be in connection. All of that said, I'm going to share a story. Yesterday, okay, my daughter, she has a limiting belief that she's a burden. Now, completely understandable. You knew the parent I was before, you would know exactly why she feels like she's a burden. So, how that shows up for her is that whenever it's time to ask for help or support, she struggles with it. She has to put herself in a state to, like, okay, I'm asking without expectation so that it doesn't feel like it's not being met, and da 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 da, right? So yesterday I noticed how it showed up. So she asked me to go run a task for her. Now I know on one side of it she's very considerate, because she does know that I have a full plate, and adding things to my plate is going to, it could either cause me to feel overwhelmed, and I know she doesn't want to be the reason why I feel overwhelmed. And also she has a lot of gratitude for me whenever I am doing something that she's asked for. However, when she does ask, initially it's a lot of people pleasing. It's a lot of, I'm so sorry, thank you so much, I wish I didn't do that. It comes with this, I girl, you are feeling burdened. So yesterday all I simply said to her was, you're feeling like a burden is showing, I'm gonna need you to tuck it in. I am happy to do this for you. Thank you for allowing me to show up for you. I don't have a problem with this at all. And then I list all of the other ways that she has shown up for me. So in that moment, I recognized that her anxiousness was showing up, her anxious attachment was showing up, her inner child was showing up, her limiting belief was showing up. And as her parent and somebody who's in relationship with her, I could have attacked her, I could have made her feel more guilty, or I could have dismissed her. But instead, I was like, I opened my heart and I let her know exactly how I was feeling and how that helped, and that felt reassuring to her. So if I didn't, and Tasia, she's the one who taught me the empathic repair language. That's speaking from your heart. And so that's exactly what I did. I spoke in the way that she would be able to receive, because I took the time to learn her and understand her. So I'm able to understand that while this behavior might be people pleasing, or it might be like the energy behind it is like, oh my God, please do not love me, or because I'm asking you to do more for me. It's really just her way of needing to feel secure, to feel like she's part of something, she's belonged, and this is not an issue. So that's my example of how, relational safety is really important to connection, and the level of and the depth of connection that we can really have with one another, and show up in a way where it's not about needing, like in that moment she needed to be in control of how she was being received, and I was able to help her co-regulate and experience the experience and receive and allow, instead of me also, like, if I needed to be in control of that situation, like, yeah, see, I show up for you all the time, this is how you should thank me. It can go wrong so fast in so many ways. What do you think about that?
When you were sharing that example, I was thinking, oh, there's a lot of self awareness that you had and that you knew what she needed. But I like that you told her, like, tuck your, what was the phrase? Tuck your burden away. Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like I was thinking, like, ooh, tuck my, like, get under the covers and like just put it. It was a cute little thing in my head, but like, I liked it. I think that if someone said that to me, and not necessarily a burden, but whatever it is, I think I would feel like encouraged when they said that to me. That would make me feel more receptive to actually opening up to them and like even reaching out to them, especially if something else was bothering me and I needed like someone to listen, because that's very reassuring. That makes personally that would make me feel like reassured that this person cares enough to like not just listen to me, but like also tell me that they, because one of my love languages is acts of service. So just listening to that was like, oh, it was so nice that you were like willing to like, take this little task off a plate, because it was like, you know what, I can take care of that. When someone says that to me, like that just makes me melt, because I'm like, oh, the like one thing is off and like the pressure is gone. So I really like that. But it just shows me that you don't need grand gestures. Maybe you just need like these little moments of connection and being able to be there for people. But it does take a lot to receive. I can definitely say that, because sometimes I don't know whether this is a common experience, but I feel like more people are willing to give and less are willing to like receive. And not like willing is the wrong word, but it's just that I think especially with women, we have this internal compass, I think, to like give and overextend and be like, I'll be there for you and whatever. But then when it comes to us, we're like, I don't want to burden anyone with this. Like, I remember there was a time in my life where I would be the person that everyone came to, but then I would not be willing to go to them. And that was my own limiting belief, because I think I literally said this to one of my, like back in the day, one of my friends. I had literally said, like, but if they come to me with their problems, and this was probably a little bit of pride also, if they come to me with their problems, then how are they going to solve my problems? So I was like looking at it from the lens of efficiency and not realizing that maybe they have perspective that could help me, and I'm just trying to do it all myself, like 'cause it's all on me, and how you that's not essentially how I wanted to live my life. So I've made more intentional choices since then. But yeah, for me right now, it comes down to reciprocity, because I'm not saying that you need to have a little balance sheet and, check it off every month, like 50-50, but you do need some reciprocity in a relationship, platonic or otherwise, just so that you have that safety like we talked about. Because I think for me, reciprocity is safety. Like if I'm not getting that, then I'm questioning whether I'm overextending or whether the other person just doesn't care enough. Do you have any thoughts on what I shared right now?
Yeah, because, okay, so what I was thinking about, right, is when these things are happening, right? When this connection is happening, or when I want reciprocity, and you're absolutely right, reciprocity is important in connection. We tend to, when we go on a healing journey, we tend to start thinking about, oh, what do we need? Okay, we need to set boundaries and we need to do all of these things. But how we show up in relationship is important too. The journey isn't to judge another person, is to meet that part of us inside and love it, so that when it does show up in someone else, we can also love it. Because I know what that energy that Tasia was having yesterday, that people pleasing, that I'm sorry. I recognize how I used to do that too. And what is it that I needed at that time? So being able to give it naturally without like, "Oh, let me score, let me keep the score of how I'm showing up for you." It, that just really quickly, I want to touch on when these things are happening, right? And let's say Tasia, for example, if she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this," and she's like, I'm putting more work on other people, and I want to make sure that I get it right. How does that affect her relationship with food? In that moment, that's when the sabotages can come in. That's when the self-loathing, the beating up, and then I'm a night owl, so I would wait until the end of the night, and that's when I would process everything and then live in the shame. And then I would go and be completely out of control, dysregulated, and use food because I'm so unconscious of what I'm doing. And I have no idea that this is how it's showing up. Now, on the other hand, I could look at her asking me to do something is adding something to my plate. How could she not even consider me? I can't believe she's doing this to me. And then when I go into the store, I'm going to make sure I get like a Snicker bar, because they say when you're upset, you eat a Snicker, justify all of the reasons of why I deserve the Snicker bar. So, are on the way, like, you know what, I'm going to need some French fry, like, revenge eating or whatever the case is. Like this all plays into deeper rooted things that we are not really aware of. Because even as an avoidant, right? If I'm avoidant, I don't know at the time when I didn't even understand what. All I knew was I was upset. I yelled, and then I retreated. And then when I felt better, I'm coming back like, oh, I'm so sorry I behaved that way. But I also spent 4 days eating things that I'm not proud of and stuff in my face and self-loathing and shaming myself. And now I'm coming back and I'm feeling like complete poop or shit. So, this all like ties so deeply into whether, the exploration of it, the sitting down, the journaling, when the moments come up, allowing ourselves to feel witness and do that internal work. And again, this is the part where I think it trips everybody up. What does the internal work look like? And that internal work will look like deep dives into you. And that's something that you're not going to be able to do just by what you already know. You have to go for more information. And so when I say go for more information, what I did was I started to reach out to the right people. I started to look into the attachment style, but not just, okay, I'm an avoidant, what do I do? It's also looking what my avoidant needed. What was the emotional need that was happening in the situation that I didn't get? Because sometimes in an argument, again, like we go over this all the time, right? We all have limiting belief. There's not a single one of us who don't have limiting belief. It doesn't matter if we had big T trauma or little T trauma. It is emotional needs. We are human beings. And if we were to really look and see what the father energy and the mother energy is supposed to give us, our father energy is supposed to teach us how to love ourselves, and our mother energy is to teach us how to love other people, how to bring community together, right? So if we're not able to receive, we got to go to our daddy wounds. It's not that, we have we have to go there. That's where it comes from. That doesn't mean that we hate our dad. That doesn't mean that we want to punish or whatever. It's looking to see what and acknowledge. Because, for me, I spent my whole life believing that my dad didn't want me. I made decisions and choices to support that belief. But when I go back now and look and see what was missing, I was missing an emotionally present parent. I was missing nurturing. I was missing what male presence should look like from one person, but I had it in all the other ways. So by going back and looking at it, I was able to see see my dad with more compassion, because he was just doing what he knew how to do in a third world country at the age of 30, being murdered. Like, what life did he have to live? I was 41 when I really got that I was a problem, right? So my dad didn't even get to do that. And the study and the sciencey stuff is that male, their prefrontal cortex is like usually developed by age 32. The man didn't even make it. And I have been walking around with resentment my whole life and punishing other people in that resentment and not knowing it. So, when we think about attachment style and love languages, even, and I think you know this, right? And it's in my book, even our love languages can be sabotages. Like, look at your last love language. Why is it the last one? Why was gift receiving 0 for me? We know now, but these are all so deeply rooted in how, okay, I have a love language. I like physical touch. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean that I just like to have a lot of sex and be touchy feely with my partner? It also means that I like to be comforted. I like to have softness. My nervous system likes to slow down. It likes to enjoy and be peaceful, right? Like, it's not just physical touch. There's a deeper need there. I mean, that's like a physical touch is a soothing repair language. The soothing repair language and physical touch are best friends. So just a little FYI in there. Easy tip that I'll put in. Okay, now Amanda, I have talked a lot. Please rescue me.
Well, I mean, so we primarily spoke a lot about the emotional aspect of this because I am going to touch on food a little, but to be honest, we wanted to give you guys some perspective on the emotional side because I think the food, why do you lose control with food? I want to say that, yeah, Lazina shared from the experience of the night owl because that used to be a pattern. And I'll share from my experience of the spiral, which is again tying back to what you said. So I primarily would rely on food to soothe myself, right? Like that was my need. Like whatever emotion I was going through, I would go to food because it was my constant. And back then, I didn't really have the language to talk about my needs or even express myself till I met Nazina. And we started working together. But essentially, it's like she said, she had her experience, but in my experience, if I was stressed out, I would go to food. So whether that was I'm getting overworked with work, or I had a confrontation or this little fight with someone, I would just go to food, and that would be what gave me some relief in the moment. But what happened was after that, right, the guilt would come in. So I am soothing myself with food and I'm feeling good in this moment, but that doesn't last because the guilts come in and now I'm more stressed than ever. So it was like a complete and total backfire. And this is why um, me being a spiral, it wasn't a healthy pattern at all because I was trying to get food really right and I was trying to be very rigid about what I'm eating, when I'm eating, and stuff like that. And I know it sounds a lot on the surface like I was more of a soldier, but that's not true because I know that I was using food for soothing myself, not necessarily for like keeping in control with food. But I do want to say that it does make sense, like what you said about the love languages, because gift giving also, funny enough, was also zero for me. I remember when I took the test and you were like, oh, don't worry, that I got zero two on it, or your score was low, but mine was zero. I remember that. And then I had to stick with it and ask myself, what is it that I don't like about, receiving gifts? And yes, I think I could definitely say, at least, like, I don't want to say this in the wrong manner, but I do think that it was partly because most people couldn't get the gift right for me. But then I also realized that was a lot of fault on my end because maybe I wasn't really sharing what I like my likes and dislikes, or what I am into as a person. So obviously, if someone's love language is gift giving, that's going to be a natural instinct to like give someone a gift. It's not my natural instinct because it's the last one on the list for me. I would pick the others. But I understood that it's a thought that counts, if like essentially. So I would receive the gift, but there would be a little bit of resentment. And I think it also played into the fact that I was not very good at receiving, as we spoke about in so many of our episodes, giving and receiving. So the giving part, I was fine with. The receiving part, not so much, as you can tell from the gift giving being zero.
So one of the things I want to touch on, right, when you were saying about your gift receiving, right? You're saying that, maybe you weren't telling people what you like and what you didn't like. And by not doing that, when the gift comes, it almost would leave me with a feeling of like, I'm not feeling considered, or this isn't a thoughtful gift. And I am the one who is recreating that feeling because I never even said what it is that I wanted or needed in the first place. And so now it's like, oh, you're just not going to meet my expectations. Why? So it's like an underhanding revenge in a way. And it's so crazy because we, like, again, we can all like, oh yeah, this is my love language, but like you said, we don't receive. It's not really gonna land the right way, and we're just gonna be in constant disconnection. So that's why it's like I'm really passionate about the repair language, because I feel like it's a missing gap in really understanding what our unmet needs are. And once we connect what our unmet needs are, we can show up differently in relationships with each other, because our core human need is to be in relationships that are thriving, to feel recognized, to feel belong, to feel significant. So if we're in environments where we're participating in our own sabotage, or we're allowing ourselves to not get what we need, then we're going to continue being in that loop, and then we're never going to have the joy of experiencing someone else's coolness, like, because then people have to all feel safe to be themselves. And if you don't feel safe to be Amanda with me, that can be, you don't feel safe, but also, how am I creating the safety for you? How am I showing up for you to feel safe with me? Am I using blame language? Am I constantly having expectations? And that kind of goes into a little bit of attachment style, the secure attachment style. When I feel safe in my relationships and I know that this relationship isn't going anywhere, regardless of what happens, I'm still here. That means I'm willing to get through the uncomfortable. And sometimes the uncomfortable, and this was an example for me, when I was deep in my avoidant and I was communicating with someone who was secure, it felt like a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations I had to meet. I would never be good enough. But once I really rectify and heal those parts of me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person really sees me as such a awesome way, and they're seeing my potential, and they're not like letting me sleep on myself. They're not, they know that I want to grow, and they believe in me too. So it's like a natural switch. It becomes more gratitude for that person, like being there and being that guide that I needed when I didn't know. So that's kind of all I have for today. I think it's more about understanding that control is, our system way of saying there's something that's a little bit out of alignment, and we may not even be aware of when we are in control of our healing, or in control of the outcome or how people see us. And that's a moment where we need to switch into like, okay, what is it that I need? Let me regulate. How can I regulate this in a way that supports me and how I show up? Because ultimately, if I take care of me, and I show up for me with integrity, I'm gonna naturally show up for other people with integrity, because I'm meeting parts of me that had the same journey, that had the same experiences, so I can meet that with more kindness now, and not judge it and like, tell people what to do because I've overcome it. Is accessing the compassion part of it and being in relationship with each other.
And I just want to add one little thing to what you said, because of the behavior aspect of it, right? Like I love to look at behavior. So I think I agree with everything Lazina said regarding the emotional needs. But I personally did this, so I feel like it might be helpful. But when I was moving, like trying to move from getting out of the spiral pattern to a healthier eating pattern, and even when I was trying to move from like the avoidant style, like avoidant attachment style, to more of a secure style. I wanted to, you need to sit in the discomfort, that's true. But it's not just sitting in the discomfort. I think you also need to participate in the discomfort, if I can say that. And what I mean by that is, if I didn't know where to start, I would just do the opposite of whatever my knee jerk reaction was. So for example, as a spiral, right? My knee jerk reaction would be I'm feeling dysregulated and now I need to go and eat food and soothe myself because I need relief. But I wouldn't do that, right? Like I would literally not do that. I would sit with those hard feelings and then just try to figure out, why am I feeling this? What's coming up? What's the need that I'm looking for right now? And then like, yeah, a lot of you, there's journaling involved, which Lazina and I have talked about in so many episodes. But that's what I did with food and with attachment style. Like if I can share, I just try to do the opposite of what an avoidant would do. So if an avoidant is feeling uncomfortable, they kind of pull away, right? Like that's usually how it goes. So I would try and do a little bit more of what an anxious person would do. So I would try and, not pull away. I would try and reciprocate, or like try and overcompensate a little. And this is not to say that I was getting it right, because with both of them, I was not getting it perfect. But the only way to like, because we talk about these things and I don't want it to just be theory for people. Like we're all about not just insight, it's also a lot of integration. And the only way you can actually make those shifts and transformation is if you participate in the discomfort, like I said at the beginning. So you literally have to take steps, even if it's the opposite of what you want to do in the moment. Just take that step. It may not be the right one, but it's at least better than what your knee jerk reaction would be to do. And at the end of the day, you can say you made a little bit of progress because at least you move the needle a little bit, right? So I feel like that was helpful to me, and I just kind of wanted to point that out. But think we're almost at the end. So we are going to close the curtain on this episode unless Lazina has something to share.
No, I think I've shared enough. Not enough, but I've shared a lot. And sometimes the things that people tell me is that, don't you think you're a little too intense, or like, when do you have fun, or when do you relax, or these things that feel like very heavy. And sometimes I can think, for me, this is just conversation, but for other people it could be a lot to digest, right? If you have to sit with it and hear it. So I just want to say thank you for listening to us here. I'm not here to fix you. And if something in this episode really resonated with you, sit with it, journal about it, reach out to one of us, go explore our quiz. Again, these quizzes are not to label you. They're not to say that you're broken or you need fixing. It's just an exploration to deeper you and see what came up for you as we were talking, right? And it's just another way of of uncovering and discovering and just learning how to be the best you. So again, share it with a friend. If somebody really come up as you were thinking about it, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to this person about it. Do it. Don't. This is your message right now to do it. Hit the share button. Not only because we want hit likes and follows and subscribers, but also because it's important. So
Yeah.
don't forget to check out our show notes where we're gonna have all these awesome quiz and tools. I have a freebie on my website about the attachment style and how that can pertain to your repair language. So yeah, we got you. We're here for you. We're here to have conversations with you and be with you because you were never broken in the first place. So we'll see you the next time.
Thank you for being here. Bye.